Our theme for our last little bit here with Congress is the committee system. And so that's our theme for this notes. And so the video questions I want you to pay attention to is how many standing committees are there in the House of Representatives and the Senate? What powers do the standing committees have? And what are the three types of standing committees? What are the three functions of a committee? Why is it important to be assigned to the right committee in Congress? And in the House, what is the most powerful committee? Your quiz, your video note quiz on Monday will consist of answers to these questions, just like it has the last 2 times we've done it. Alrighty, so here is the notes. I'll show you kind of these notes, and then I'll show you some PowerPoint notes to look at as well. So the committee system, we've already learned about the role of the conference committee when designing legislation or just passing legislation. So let's just talk about this real quick. The committee system, the real work of Congress, like it states, is done in the committees and subcommittees, not on the floor in the House or Senate. In the House, there's 22 standing committees, which means permanent, and in the Senate, there's 16 standing committees, which also means permanent. And within those committees, there's subcommittees. Before a bill even reaches the floor, we've talked about this, it passes through a committee, unless the committee has resisted reporting out the bill, and the House votes to discharge it into the floor for consideration by the full body. Senate committees lack that power to prevent bills from reaching the floor. The 3 committee functions are they analyze legislation, bills, conduct investigations on the executive branch on as-need basis, and conduct oversight of executive branch agencies on an ongoing basis. That's that checks and balances coming into play. So how do you select committee members? And I put here, this is important, getting on the right committee when you go to Congress, one in which a member can best serve his constituents. Remember what those are. And thus increases his chances of re-election. That's very, very, very important. Members are assigned committees by either the Committee on Committees, that's not representatives, or that's a Republican, or the Steering of Policy Committee, which is Democrat. So they just assign you within your party. This is important here. Whichever party has the majority in the House will have the majority on each committee. And then committee chairman is of the majority party, ranking member is of the minority party. So that's why it's important to win the control of those, because then you control the committee, control of the House. So then you control the committees if you're one of the 2 major political parties. Now, how do you select the committee chair? And what powers do they have? So the power of a chairman is substantial over setting committee agenda, hiring staff, membership on subcommittees, and jurisdiction on subcommittees, what they can and can't do. Chairman are selected by secret ballot in caucuses or conferences of party leaders at the beginning of the term. A caucus is just basically referring to a group of members of Congress who share similar interests. Each party has these. Examples are Congressional Black Caucus, the Congressional Caucus for Women's Issues, and the caucuses, again, they hold hearings and put pressures on committees to influence legislation. So that's what a caucus is in terms of in Congress. Generally, the seniority system is followed by the person of the majority party with the most seniority on that committee is the chosen member. So in the 104th Congress imposed term limits of 6 years on both House and Senate chairmen. The term that took effect started in 2001 and was one of Gingrich's reforms on this. Advantage of the seniority system, you get experience, stability, and expertise, which is very important, and reduces infighting among those who would be rivals. So it just makes it easy when you're picking who the chairman of the committee would be. Disadvantages is increases influence of one-party states and decreases influence of competitive states. Ranking member, this is we talked a little bit about this, is the most senior member of minority party on a committee. So that's what that means. Important standing committees. Standing committees are the permanent committees of Congress, and they have legislative, oversight, and investigative powers. 3 types of standing committees in both the House and the Senate. Authorizing allows for creation of federal programs. Appropriations provides funding for federal programs, important. Revenue and budget raise money for federal programs. So that's what the committees do. This is what their role is. So some of the standing committees in the House, the most important is the Rules Committee. It sets the legislative calendar and establishes rules for debate and amendments. Second one is the Ways and Means. This deals with tax bills, which can only originate in the House. Then you have the Appropriation, which means it's with spending bills. They authorize the bill allowed for money to be spent. Appropriation bill provides actual funding for the program. That's what appropriation means. Earmarks, you've heard this term now with the Christmas tree bill, and you heard it in class today. Special projects set aside by members to benefit home districts or constituents or states. And there's been a dramatic rise in these recent years as people try to get reelected. Because this right here is when you go back to your district and you say, look what I provided for you. So that's a big thing right there. So this is in the House, the most important of them. There's more. There's 19 more standing committees, but these are the most important. In the Senate, you have Finance, which deals with tax bills that start here. Appropriations deals with spending bills. Foreign Relations, this is the highly prestigious one. Senate has a larger role in foreign affairs than the House because of the treaty ratification. Remember, Senate ratifies treaties. And ambassador confirmations, because they confirm everything that the president, all the appointments, provisions in the Constitution. And then you have the Senate Judiciary Committee, which screens judicial nominees from all levels of the judges, from like the federal, not just Supreme Court, federal and district judges as well. This is careful scrutiny given because the power of the modern judiciary and the fact that judges have life terms. Again, Bush and Clinton both criticized the committee by holding up numerous judicial nominations that they wanted. Some delays under Clinton lasted many months, in some cases years. Conference Committee, this is kind of review from the notes that we've already took and notes on how the bill becomes a law. It's a temporary committee comprised of both members from the houses, and they develop compromise or the final language on a bill when House and Senate versions differ, about 10% of the time. After Conference Committee sends bill back to each House, no amendments are allowed, and bill generally passes. Again, the power of these committees are such that they are often called the third House of Congress. There's other types of committees. You have select and joint. Select is appointed by House for a limited time, temporary, to study an issue or conduct investigation. And then a joint committee composed of both members from both houses for similar temporary purposes, similar purposes as the select committees. If you have any questions on this, remember, ask me, and I will answer these questions on Monday. But here's your video note questions again. Here's some PowerPoint notes on it, just what you said. This is exactly my notes from here put on PowerPoint. Again, which committee is the most important and why? Obviously it's this one, because of its legislative powers, legislative making powers, again with bills, laws, and this all the stuff we talked about. So again, let's focus back up on these questions, and we'll have a good day in class on Monday. You guys got your video quiz. Again, I'll give opportunities for extra credit. You'll have probably just like on Friday there was 1 point for 2 points extra credit, so pay attention, and your 2-point question will be a little bit more difficult than your other two, so you'll have a total of 3 questions on your video notes quiz for 10 points, but you can get 12 out of 10. Any questions, email me, and I'll gladly answer. Don't forget your project, second period and third period, that is due on Tuesday. You got to present, so you actually got to create what it is you are saying you're going to do. You've got to create it. You got to create social media. You got to create that website. You do drawing of your districts. You got to create it. If you have any questions, concerns with that, email me. Remember, that's worth about 75 to 100, and a lot of you can use those points, and I want you to get those points. You've got to do the assignment in order to get those points. Have an absolutely wonderful homecoming weekend.